that much about real estate because I had some really interesting questions thrown my way today, and it's about podcasting. So, my name is Kent. I launched an affordable housing and real estate investing podcast in today's crazy world, and I started 3 years ago. We just passed 300,000 views and downloads, whatever you want to call it, across all the platforms. And let me tell you, it's not as easy as it looks. There are some big podcasters that started really early or they started during COVID and they've just been taken off. And today I want to share some brutally honest lessons that I wish I knew before I even hit record. No fluff, just 100% real talk on not even how to stand out because I'm not even sure if I'm standing out, but at least I want to share with you if my kid was asking me today whether or not she would start a podcast, like what advice should we tell our kids? Well, the first one is you have to understand the haters, right? This is why everyone says it's too late, right? When you think about how many podcasts, there's like millions of podcasts now, and everyone calls themselves an influencer. There's huge competition. There's like really big celebrities already in the game. So you're going to be thinking, you're going to have to self doubt, like, who would want to listen to me? And the first brutally honest advice I would give myself is, and my kids is, no one cares about you. Let me say it again. No one cares about who you are or what your experience is. They care about what you can do for them. And my biggest revelation that day was I was so nervous recording my first podcast episode. I was begging people to come on. So I had one of my best friends, one of my first partners, and people that I knew were in real estate. And I originally was going to call the podcast How to Quit Your 9 to 5. And it wasn't until I started talking about affordable housing out loud because I was listening to myself. Then I realized how much passion I was talking about affordable housing and about my family, about my mom and my family struggles. And that's when it clicked for me. If you're starting a podcast today to gain fame overnight, could it happen? Yeah. But you will certainly be an exception, not the rule. And this is why you have to understand if you're starting a podcast today for fame, then chances are it's very low. However, if you push through because you're passionate about it and you want to understand and you want to serve others and you want to provide the information that you wish was there 1, 2, 3 years ago, then go for it. But you got to find your angle or your niche and don't copy others. Just ask yourself, hey, what can I say differently or better? And my goal was I didn't want to bring on guests on the podcast that would brag about, oh, I got 5,000 doors here, I got 10,000 units there, because it doesn't really help anybody. It's not relatable. And once you realize what your goal is, my goal is to bring on people to thank them for what they're doing in affordable housing, because affordable housing is just not an industry that gets thanked very often. And two was to ask questions on behalf of my audience, on behalf of all of you that are listening, for the information that you can use in your day to day jobs, or day to day interests, or day to day investment trading, whatever that is. That's what it takes. That's why you got to have a real why behind your podcast, right? So let's talk about equipment. Your mic, your audio does not matter. You could start recording with a iPhone camera and a very basic mic. You could just even use your AirPods. I've recorded podcasts with AirPods. I spent maybe 2 weeks just looking at what the best mic was, what camera I should use, what software I should use. When in reality, guess what? Here's the fourth brutally honest advice. No one's listening to you, especially in the beginning. No one cares about you. No one cares about your content. You're begging people to come on. And you and your why have to be able to push through when everyone's asking you, Who are you? Why do I care about you? Why are you worth my time? Because guess what? I think I read a stat. It's like if you don't make it past episode 27 now, chances are your podcast is gonna get canceled or you're gonna stop. And that person's time spending on your podcast would have gone to waste. So, what are you proving when you're looking for guests to come on your podcast that you're consistent? Where else can you provide examples to them that you are consistent, that you will keep this up, and that this is just not a fad, right? I know so many people that have stopped podcasts, and that's probably because it wasn't their energy or the activity that they enjoyed the most, or the why might not have been strong enough, right? Very different reasons. Not everybody's meant to be a podcaster, but you have to decide whether or not it's really meant for you, and you can just try it out, see if it gives you energy, right? Then when it comes to content strategy, right? You got to think about, hey, do I want to niche down or do I want to go broad? I thought affordable housing was really a niche, but in itself, it's also very broad, right? I've been able to bring on from the residents that lived in affordable housing and seeing where they have progressed in life, to single family Section 8 investors, to multifamily value add investors, to ground up construction developers for multifamily, people building hundreds and hundreds. Sometimes some of those folks have built thousands of apartment units. And when you niche down, people know what to expect from you. And I'll be honest, right? I had a lot of attention on single family homes, but I also knew that where I wanted to go was in development for affordable housing, multifamily specifically. And I said, okay, well, if that's my path, then unfortunately that gets you less viewership. So it's gonna make you not as famous. So you had to go back to your brain and say, hey, why am I going after this? Is the reason why. And I realized there's so many people in this world that want to get into development, whether that's for affordable home ownership, whether that's for affordable housing rentals, whether they are just single family investors, right? But everyone needs an outlet. And that's when I realized everyone just wants the help. Everyone just wants the information that will unlock their path to helping. But you have to pick something. So just pick something so that at least you have an anchor and then you still have the right to change your mind. The problem is most people say, I don't have a great idea or I don't have the right guess. It's not, don't let perfect get in the way of getting started. Because if you never get started, that next step will never reveal itself to you. Okay. Now let's talk about consistency. I used to look, this is why your why needs to be so important because there's going to be days and there's going to be weeks where you say, hey, I think I'm going to skip this week. I don't think anyone will notice except yourself. And when you lie to yourself, that's where your confidence erodes. So you're the one that's going to have to force yourself to the schedule. Because guess what? When you understand that other people are relying on you for information that might help them help other people, then you, based on your personality, you will likely show up more often. And showing up is so important. So don't skip, stay consistent. All right. And then finally, you got to be yourself. And if you're a podcast guest and you might not have the most energy, you can practice that. Okay. When I first started talking, I was saying a lot of likes, basically, but you slowly work it out, right? You're not going to be great on day one on the mic. I'm still working on it every single day. You're going to have to work through it. And that's why your why, who you're doing it for, is so important. What helped me was understanding that, hey, if my family or your kids ever want to help people, want to give them an outlet for how they might want to help. You get to choose who you want to help and how do you want to help them. I choose to help families and I wanted to help them through housing. You can too. And what better way for you to learn than getting into rooms with people, with experts, with other folks who have been in the industry for way longer than you. This is the hack. The podcast is the hack. You can interview. Let's say you want to become a movie producer. Well, why don't you start a podcast about movie producing? I don't know. But now as you get to talk to other movie producers and understand what they did that got them to where they are today. When you're new and you have in your mind nothing of value to add or nothing of value to provide, well, guess what? A lot of people sometimes will view an audience as valuable. And getting their message out to people that are right is valuable. And I'm speaking about this to my kids and your kids because I'm so concerned about all the stuff about mental health and kids. And if we can just help our kids focus on serving others, then maybe, just maybe, we can alleviate some of that danger with them feeling like they're not enough, with them always feeling they're comparing to others. When they're focused on serving others and helping others, I really hope that that gives them the fulfillment that they might be looking for. Because I believe we're all put on this earth for one reason, and that's to help other people become a better version of themselves. All right. Now let's talk about marketing. If you think you can grow your audience, I'm not saying you can't blow up one day with a viral post, but I'm saying more likely than not, no one's going to listen to your stuff. And if I were you, I would not care about my vanity metrics, meaning how many followers do I have? How many subscribers do I have? Because my first month, I had 17 views or downloads. I'm pretty sure it was just my mom that was clicking on it. And she doesn't even look, doesn't listen to podcasts. Second month, I had 80. And it took maybe 3 years to get to 300,000 views. Wow, that was hard. But I'll tell you what worked and what helped. Every single time you get words of encouragement, people say, "Hey, that content was really helpful." Oh my god, it was the such a supercharging moment. They say people cheer you at the beginning and they cheer for you at the end, but no one ever cheers for you in the middle. And you all have no idea why your support system is so important. But also remember that people don't need to support you to win. And that's why your why needs to come from within. And I hope this really helps you all because if I were to start over again today, essentially you would have to promote your podcast on all the platforms. You upload on YouTube, you upload Apple Podcasts, you upload to Spotify, you cut that podcast up into 5, 6, 7 clips, you post it on TikTok, you post it on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, you name it, you post it there because you got to get more eyeballs on your podcast and your content. And guess what? When you start, you're gonna have days where you have probably less than 10 views, and eventually it gets to 100. And sometimes people think like 100 is not good. That's the crazy part. I'm so grateful whenever I have 100 views because that means imagine you filled up a room of 100 people that's listening to you talking about affordable housing. Like those are my like you all are my people. And I cannot thank you enough for caring about affordable housing because without people like you, I would have never had the home I grew up in. That's why your why needs to be stronger, even when it feels like no one in the world is listening. Because in the beginning, chances are no one is going to be listening. All right. Now let's talk about money, monetization. It took me 3 years to get my first $100 check from YouTube. 3 years. I spend every month I spend 1,100, $1,200 on an editor. So I've been losing money on producing a podcast for 3 years. Now, could I put a sponsor on an episode? Maybe, but that wasn't a go. And I want to keep it free. I want to keep the podcast as independent as possible for a really long time. And that's why I didn't take any podcasts. And if you think you're going to become rich with a podcast, it can happen, but I wouldn't let that be the decision of why you started in the first place. Start it so that you can help people, so that you can talk to the people that you want to talk to. And if you have a genuine curiosity for whatever topic, for whatever guest you interview, that is your competitive advantage, because you will push through even when things get boring, even when it gets monotonous. Because in the beginning, you're doing everything. You're scheduling the podcast guests. You're reaching out to them. I'm still doing that today. I'm still doing that today. And if you have a full time job like I do, you're doing this at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. But you do it because you still have to be a great parent to your kids. You have to take care of everything. You still have to love on your spouse. And you still do it because you want to leave behind the lessons, the relationships, and the knowledge that your kid could really use. So do it for your kids, because I know there's so many parents out there that will run through walls for their kids. So why not start a podcast? Show them how hard it is, and show them how you pushed through when it was hard, because kids, things are caught, not taught. And they're going to see you struggling. And that's okay, because they're learning how to struggle. All right. So in the beginning, don't get stuck on those vanity metrics. All right. Because if you keep focusing on it, you're going to want to quit. And I'll be honest, in the beginning, every single time I met someone in real estate, I was messaging them. I was asking them, hey, will you please support the podcast? And that's how I grew it. It was a manual ask. That's what it took just to get to 3,000 subscribers. Every month I would grow like 10, 20, then it became 30, 40 a month, then it became 100 a month. But that's how slow it is in the beginning. And I will not sugarcoat it. I will want to be brutally honest about how hard it is. But when you get to the other side of this and you feel like you're making a difference, and you're talking to the right people, and you're helping the right people, and you're helping people build affordable housing because they got the intellectual capital now because of you, dang, that is powerful. That is the most rewarding feeling that I wish you all will be able to experience someday. So do it, get after it, because someone out there was just like you, and you are the most qualified person to help the person that you are today, by finding other folks that are doing what you want to do. And just remember, no one cares who you are. No one's listening to you in the beginning. And they don't care about you. They care about what you can do for them. And I hope that's the reason why you started a podcast in the first place. All right. Have an amazing Monday, everybody. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm just sharing some advice that I wish someone would have told me, because if you knew what you're getting yourself into eyes wide open, you might prepare a little bit more, but don't over prepare so much that you don't ever get started. So have an amazing Monday, everybody. I hope you all have an amazing Monday. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today, because that's what life is all about. I'll see y'all tomorrow for day 564. Have a good one. And if you guys like this type of topic, let me know what other questions you have. Eventually, I want to make a longer form video that talks about all the lessons I've learned from podcasting. And I hope this was helpful, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow for day 564. Have a good one, everybody.